This video is sponsored by ZocDoc. Nintendo. Possibly the most recognizable company in gaming history. They've been around for over 135 years, which a lot of companies can't really say they've been around for over a century. They have produced some of the greatest and most beloved games and franchises of all time, with the quality and recognition of these franchises spanning several decades. But sadly, at the end of the day, Nintendo is still a corporation. They can make some of the best games ever made, but they can still be pure evil when they feel like it. Stomping out fan game after fan game, sending out cease and desist to charities and events using their works, suing other companies for daring to make content similar to their own. They are not saints. Hell, they never have been. They've been doing evil, cutthroat business decisions since entering the video game market. And to this day, they've never really stopped. But despite this, Nintendo has garnered well over 4 decades of fans, entire generations of people who grew up with their games, and some of those fans are pretty rabid. Nintendo fans are probably some of the most dedicated fans of anything I've ever seen. They will follow them to the ends of the earth no matter what. I would know. But throughout the years, we've seen a ton of people who make liking Nintendo their entire personality, and I thought it'd be interesting to pick out a couple of cases from back in the day and show them all to you. It's time to bing bing, and dare I say, wahoo. Welcome to... But first, it's time to collect my paycheck. As you'll soon see in this video, the most important thing to you should be your mental and physical health. So you should always check in with a specialist or a professional to see if everything is up to speed on your body's status. And you can do that with today's sponsor, ZocDoc. Ever get an abscess on your body that's painful and swollen, and no matter what you do it won't go away, and as time goes on it gets worse? That happened to me, and not really fun at all, it made me sad. And while that's probably when you need to contact a specialist to have it looked at, but where exactly do you look to do so? ZocDoc is made just for that. ZocDoc is a free website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment, from mental health to dentistry, eye care, skin care, and everything in between. Using ZocDoc, you can search up exactly what type of specialist you need to visit to cater to your issues. And ZocDoc will lead you in the right direction with well over 100,000 healthcare providers listed. You should have all your bases covered. You can book an appointment in just a few clicks. And with just listing your insurance provider, you'll have one in no time. ZocDoc also provides you user reviews and detailed information on all the doctors to let you know who is really the right match for you. Having to jump all around looking for the right doctor is a thing of the past. ZocDoc also helps you get appointments fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking, and you can even score same-day appointments. No need to call doctor's offices and wait on hold either. ZocDoc lets you do everything online so you can quickly make an appointment and get on with your day. Now the next time my body tries to grow juicy fruit, I know exactly where to look. Stop waiting, stop guessing, and start getting the care you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/MagicMush to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. Thank you so much ZocDoc for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it. You know, it may not seem like it, but picking out the subjects for this video was way harder than you may think. Like, finding Nintendo fans is extremely easy. You can look in any online gaming sphere and find them. But finding the ones that are actually interesting to talk about in a video format is the difficult part. If we're just talking about love and dedication towards the games, that's fine. If we're talking about undying loyalty to Nintendo as a brand and being Nintendo's strongest soldiers fighting the console wars, that's a little more entertaining, but it happens every single day somewhere online. Just to give a small sample of that, I've decided to talk about one of Nintendo's strongest soldiers, Harman Smith. Now, I only recently found out about this man, so forgive me if I miss any key points. When you hear the words Nintendo fanboy, someone like this guy is probably the first example that'll pop into your head. Just look at my dude. He looks like he's having a ball right now. Harman exclusively only likes Nintendo. He thinks every game that doesn't release on Nintendo is a failure, and he constantly participates in the console wars, shouting Nintendo's superiority.
It is time to put an end to this. It is time to actively rally, to rail against the PlayStation Nation and everything they stand for.
This is about what you would expect. Don't worry, they're not all going to be like this for this video. Trust me. It's weird he's so Nintendo focused, and his name is based off of a character from Killer 7, which I gotta say, Killer 7 is an amazing game. You should go play it and don't let its name be sullied by this guy. You can see this channel start off as an anime review channel, and honestly, I probably would have preferred that instead of becoming a Nintendo cheerleader.
The Super Nintendo games are just better than games being made today. Like, really sitting down and playing nothing but Super Nintendo games, like, all day for days at a time, right, is just... It really just gets to you eventually. Like, wow, gaming used to be so good.
If you ever got into an argument on social media about Nintendo, and someone came to Nintendo's defense, there's a good chance it was Harman.
Steam is a complete joke. You know, doesn't have Unicorn Overlord, doesn't have Princess Peach Showtime, doesn't have, like, you know, another Code R or Mario vs. Donkey Kong. You know, I have had so many good, alright games on Nintendo Switch this year, and Steam doesn't have a fraction of that.
Whenever a website hosting Nintendo games or a Nintendo fan game gets taken down, he's actually happy about it and says they deserved it.
I thought Nintendo didn't have a case! I thought emulation was legal! And what happens? You know, after the Ryujinx thing, after, like, literally owning Yuzu, you know, Nintendo goes out and shuts down even more piracy sites. Trump himself is on Nintendo's side. Like, it's possible he signed the documents to do it. You know, that is just how clearly in the wrong the emulation community actually is.
If a game skips out on a Nintendo console, he will make multiple videos crapping on that game and saying how much it sucks or how it's already forgotten.
So just like that, Elden Ring is completely forgotten. Baldur's Gate 3 has been completely forgotten for over a year now. Black Myth Wukong had no momentum behind it. Astrobot was never going to be compete on the same level with Mario, but
hell, he thinks developers should only make games for Nintendo and nobody else. That's a level of greed and entitlement most people can only dream of.
Like, I do think, for better or for worse, Nintendo is going to destroy their enemies and they are going to conquer the console space. I think developers will not be able to continue this facade. You know, they will not be able to, like, continue tricking people into thinking that, like, our audience isn't on Nintendo hardware. Like, it's just obviously not true.
I really want to believe that this is all an elaborate ruse, that this guy is just playing the character of a crazy Nintendo fan. But he's been doing it for so long now and has thousands of videos up, I'm not too sure about that. Everyone is always going to have a preference for something, and that includes video games. You may have a preference for a specific type of console, or maybe you gravitate towards PC because it gives you more options. But when your fanboyism is so severe, you flat out refuse to play anything that isn't on your box of choice, and then go out of your way to shit on it because it isn't, that's when you're a little too far gone. It seems like he spends more time bitching about non-Nintendo things than actually liking Nintendo.
Animal Crossing has outsold Doom Eternal, Half-Life Alyx, and Final Fantasy VII-R. Combined, Animal Crossing is the GOAT!
But does this guy have anything else going for him? Does he do anything else? Well, he has some awful political videos if that counts. What does he do for a living? Well, it turns out, Harman is... an author. He writes books.
Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cool and Beautiful, Rabbit Hole, and King Dia.
Because of course he does. You can find a list of them on Amazon, and surprisingly, none of them involve Nintendo in any way. At least that's what it looks like. He also used to have a whole website dedicated to his work called Black Cat Books. Now it seems the website belongs to someone else, but if you do some digging and look back a few years, you can see that it mostly ended up being a Nintendo gaming blog. Why am I not surprised? This man is a walking stereotype. He's like those old school nerd pictures you saw online, but somehow he's real. And that's actually kind of terrifying. That someone like this actually exists.
We are going to demand that these games come out on Nintendo hardware where they should have been to begin with and will be forevermore. This is war.
I just hope. I pray that this is all an elaborate troll or something along those lines. Because honestly, being this dedicated to a corporation who couldn't care less about you isn't healthy. The best scenario we can possibly get out of this is if one day this guy just comes out the blue and says this.
The truth comes out. I've never been autistic. I work 40 hours a week to support my parents. This has all been a trick. You have been trolled.
Nintendo fans come in all shapes and sizes. There's the casual fans or the diehard fanboys who will love Nintendo no matter what, but then there's one type of Nintendo fan that puts themselves above the others. The elitist. The elitist is the Nintendo fan who sees himself as the savior of Nintendo. They know what's best for the company. They have a specific vision of what Nintendo should and shouldn't be, and if the company doesn't follow that vision, then they're a lost cause. This is actually common in a ton of fan bases. You know how like Pokemon has the Gen 1ers, and in the Sonic fan base, you got all those people complaining about how much Sega would change Sonic's design and get upset over small details. So this really isn't a problem exclusive to Nintendo fans.
Stop. You're pure evil. Why are you coloring my arms?
But I wouldn't bring this up for nothing, as it's exactly the type of guy I'm talking about for this section. And that would be Josh Thomas, aka TheBitBlock. This may be a name some of you are familiar with, as Josh was actually kind of well known back during the early and mid 2010s. Josh mainly gained popularity through his videos of playing Nintendo games from that era. He was mainly a news channel and showed various gameplay and demonstrations of games. Add on to the fact he used to have a handful of websites like WiiFuller.com and then later became TheBitBlock.com, which were, well, Nintendo news websites. The websites no longer exist today for reasons you're about to see. Now looking at TheBitBlock from a glance, there really doesn't seem to be anything that interesting to talk about. But the more you dig in, you can see that Josh Thomas is one of the most elitist Nintendo fans I have ever seen, and much more on top of that. It wasn't so bad at first, but during the Wii U era, and most Nintendo fans should know the Wii U era was rough.
Mario and Peach together. Me and Gina together.
The diehards stuck it through, and Josh was one of those diehards. When the short Wii U era came to an end due to its failure, and everyone was talking about Nintendo's next system, that's when the shift happened.
I just woke up to the news that Nintendo has decided they're insane, which is something a lot of us have been suspecting the last few years. Like, the Wii U is the least popular Nintendo console of all time. Nothing sells on the Wii U. Nobody really cares about it. You need to get rid of it ASAP.
When the Switch was announced and shown off, Josh clearly saw Nintendo was shifting to an aspect he wasn't a fan of, and he was very vocal about this. And as the Switch years went by, he only got more and more furious at Nintendo, and especially at Nintendo's fans.
I was disappointed, to be honest with you. So many people cut Nintendo slack, nonstop. They're always making excuses for Nintendo. No, it was great because Smash Brothers was there. But it's like, okay, that's one game. Where was Animal Crossing? Where the hell was Pikmin 4? Where are any kind of new games like, I don't know, or sequels to games like Endless Ocean or Battalion Wars or Advance Wars? Or it's just like they brought next to no games.
He made a video detailing all the things he did not want to see at Nintendo's E3 that year. And one of those things was he didn't want to see any Japanese anime weeb games.
This is something I don't want to see from Nintendo at E3. A big ass block of anime Japanesey RPG games. If you don't like these Japanesey kawaii desu, weeaboo, waifu, hentai games, you're left here saying like, all right, come on, let's go. And by the way, Fire Emblem, Xenoblade, Octopath Traveler, those are the kind of games I'm referring to. I'm not saying they're bad, I'm saying I don't care.
So he doesn't want to see any Japanese-influenced games from Nintendo, which is a Japanese company, mind you. Yeah, like I said, Josh has this vision of what Nintendo should be, which seems to be only putting out specific games that he likes, which is sadly not an ideology that's exclusive to him. Going through his channel during the Switch days, you can see his loyalty to Nintendo start to deteriorate, and he proceeds to complain about almost their entire output. One of those things was the Switch's abundance of ports. Yeah, he's right, the Switch did have a lot of ports of old games. But the fact a lot of them in particular were Wii U ports really got to Josh, seeing as he was a hardcore Nintendo fan and already played them on Wii U. The console nobody bought, so he saw this as not getting any games he really wants.
There are a lot of games from the Wii U that Nintendo is just dragging over to the Switch and selling them as Switch games, right? And a lot of Nintendo fans, shockingly enough, really love that. I am not one of those people. I kind of really don't like that. I already bought these games, or I had the opportunity to buy them like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't really want them. So if you owned a Wii U and you were a pretty loyal Nintendo fan and you bought most of their releases, that means 8 months you had nothing from Nintendo to buy. And I gotta tell ya, because I experienced it firsthand, that sucks!
You know, Josh, You don't have to buy and play every single game the day it comes out, right? This hatred started to seep even into just his regular videos. Like this unboxing of Pearl and Merino amiibos. And well, can you tell me what's wrong with this unboxing?
She's got her little fingernails there, but really good detailed figure. She's got ink on the back there. So yeah, that is that's the Pearl and Merino.
This is some Sid from Toy Story shit. When Luigi's Mansion 3 was revealed, he of course had issues with it, so he made a whole video editing and coloring a screenshot of the game, attempting to fix it.
Luigi's Mansion 3 looks ugly. To be honest with you, I do think it looks quite ugly. I think one of the big issues is just the art style is drastically different from the original game. I thought I would take it upon myself to show you guys how I would make it look better, in my opinion.
It just felt like anything Nintendo put out that wasn't Animal Crossing, Josh wasn't a fan of. His personality and hostility towards Nintendo's products actually ended up having his channel and his website blacklisted from ever receiving any Nintendo products around 2016, so that probably didn't help matters either. He would eventually end up shutting his website down. He's also tried to leave his Nintendo channel for other types of content a number of times, including showing off fashion, and that also includes diaper fashion. But this is like the third time I've talked about someone like this, so at this point I'm numb to it. He would eventually come crawling back to his Nintendo content anyway, in which he was still very mad and competitive about pretty much anything they did. But to top everything off, Josh was sadly yet another victim of an addiction that also claimed the career of a ton of YouTubers. That being an addiction to social media and politics. Josh seems to be on the right-leaning side of the political spectrum, and also one of those who feels the need to make his opinion heard on basically everything he sees. With this on top of his incredibly hostile and combative personality, let's just say he got into a lot of fights on Twitter, saying some blatantly offensive shit. And some of them included his fellow Nintendo content creators who started cutting him off left and right. He was burning all of the bridges and goodwill he had crafted over the years because he could not stay off social media, and eventually got himself banned from Twitter. Looking at the full picture, I came to a very disturbing conclusion. Josh Thomas from TheBitBlock. His story is just a mirrored version of Movie Bob's. I mean, think about it. They both had Nintendo-related channels, they were both loved during their prime time, but as the years went by they became far more cynical and involved in politics, both got a crippling addiction to social media, and then proceeded to alienate all their fans and friends. It's almost the exact same story. The only major difference is being both of them being on opposite sides of the political spectrum. And Josh grew to hate everything Nintendo put out, compared to Movie Bob who worships Miyamoto like a god. If you want to see more of that, check out my channel. And while you're at it, check out my newly made Patreon for exclusive announcements, sneak peeks, and the ability to vote on what upcoming videos I make because I would really love your money. And just like Movie Bob, Josh still uploads to his channel to this day. Although surprisingly, since the Switch 2's reveal, he actually seems to be happy with the decisions Nintendo has been making. Like how everything is much more expensive now? Well, Josh takes it as a sign that Nintendo finally sees itself as a luxury brand, and they're only made for people on the higher end of incomes.
They're a billion-dollar global company. They exist to make money. Yeah, they want to make entertainment and everything, but you can't keep making $50, $70 million games if you don't continuously have successes in the industry. And I know some people don't like this, but it's just the way it is. Nintendo looks at themselves as being a premium brand. They're not the discount brand anymore. They don't want to be that. So they don't want to put their games on sale for 20 bucks.
Okay, is this man just a contrarian? I swear. Well, my friends, this just goes to show you that being a Nintendo fanboy, being active on social media, and being political all at the same time just doesn't work out. Because we now have two cases on both sides of the political spectrum where both subjects ruin their lives because of it. Now all we gotta get now is just wait until Josh Thomas puts out his own book detailing his love for Animal Crossing, just like Bob did for Mario Bros. 3. Then everything will be complete. Actually, no, you YouTubers don't need to make any more books. Scratch that idea. Boy, do I have an obscure pick for this one. I guarantee most of you probably haven't heard of this guy. Let me introduce you all to a YouTuber by the name of xXMysteriousManXx. That is the most Xbox 360 gamertag son name I've ever heard, and for a good reason we'll get into in a bit.
So yeah, you're gay.
Mysterious Man was an obscure YouTuber from the early 2010s, and his forte was reviewing old retro games. 'Twas the style at the time, mostly Nintendo ones, and this was a dime a dozen back in the day.
Hey guys, Mysterious Man back with another video. Alright guys, Mysterious Man back with another video. Hey guys, Mysterious Man back with another video.
So why am I singling this guy out? Well, he stands out once you actually look at his reviews. When you sit down and actually watch them, you will find some of the most unhinged reviews and rants ever conceived by someone who seems to like any and all human emotion.
Let's see what we got here. Wow. 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 And this is known for being one of the best games of all time. Wow.
His whole shtick is that he reviews all these fantasy-based games and criticizes them for not being realistic. And because they're not realistic and true to life, that means they're bad. And therefore, they almost always get a 0 out of 10.
When have you ever seen a fairy glowing and flying in front of a freaking brown and gray tree's face? Okay, that's not realistic. So, overall score, 0 out of 10. That's why the game's terrible, okay?
I'm sorry, this is just ludicrous that people would actually consider this one of the best games of all time. Maybe if it does look realistic, I might give it a higher score. Look at that. I can't even tell what happened. It looks like a freaking pizza goes over his face or something.
No challenge whatsoever. It's a ripoff of Pokemon. You know, Game Freak invented the concept of games where you walked around from an aerial perspective. They invented that. Terrible game, 0 out of 10.
And he has a favorite game franchise he always compares them to because it's realistic and true to life. What franchise is that? Why, Call of Duty, of course, because Call of Duty was definitely in its prime around this time.
Mysterious Man, there's blood in this game, so you should like it. No. You guys, it's only good in Call of Duty, okay? They do it right, they do it realistically.
This man also claims to be extremely wealthy and spends his money on Nintendo games to destroy them. He claims one day he will buy an expensive copy of Earthbound just to destroy it on camera.
Next, we'll frickin' maybe destroy a new sealed-in box copy of Earthbound, perhaps, or something like that. Some rare game that will really offend the Nintendrons.
If it couldn't be any more obvious by now, this guy is a gigantic troll. He's playing a character for the pure sake of pissing off any Nintendo fans watching. He hates Nintendo games, loves Call of Duty. His name is like that because it's the type of name someone like him would have as his gamer tag.
Okay, dude, now you're really starting to piss me off.
Not only is this guy a troll, but there's layers to this shit. This guy is what I wish Harman Smith is, just a character. So what is the significance of showing you all this random internet troll, this nobody with only around 400 subs from well over a decade ago? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at the very first internet troll yours truly has ever engaged with. When I was much, much younger, I'm gonna say around 12 or 13, my entire personality was Nintendo. That's what happens when you're a young Aspie. You latch onto the first thing that interests you, and you will care about nothing else in the world. If it were possible, I would have put my younger self in this video. Nowadays, though, Bluster Kong is now my life. Well, before all that, I don't know how I did it, but I somehow discovered this guy and was, well, absolutely appalled at his channel. How could you not like Nintendo games, but also not like them for a completely asinine reason?
We don't have a sword, and we don't have a shield. So, this is boring. There's nothing to do, there's nothing to fight, there's nothing to kill. There's nothing to do.
I was aware of the concept of an internet troll and what they did, but had never really saw one in action until this guy. And seeing as how he was really obscure, nobody was really talking about him. So I just sort of followed this guy for a short bit just to see what other videos he would put out, leaving comments on his videos calling him a troll, and to see if he would ever actually destroy that copy of Earthbound. It never happened, of course, because he wasn't actually serious. In hindsight, you could tell this guy was just fucking around just by his demeanor and some of his comments.
It's the one in Call of Duty. Okay, so that pretty much proves that it's the best. I mean, this one, because this one is in Call of Duty, that means that it's more realistic than the other ones. Like, imagine this as a first-person game right now. Like, that doesn't feel very realistic. But this, as you can see, that's much more realistic.
But back then, the concept of trolling was lost on a lot of people. And it wasn't just me. You can look in the comments of a ton of his videos and just see the Nintendo fans and fanboys ragging on this guy, blissfully unaware that this is exactly what he wants. I mean, I was under the impression, since so many other people were crapping on this guy, that I was justified in doing so. He would even make videos addressing the Nintendo fans, or as they were called, Nintendrons.
What I'm gonna do here is, I'm gonna do Super Mario World from a Nintendron's perspective. Welcome! This is Dinosaur Land! Oh, I'm so excited!
And thus the cycle repeats. Just keep pissing one group off over and over again, and you'll have endless amounts of entertainment. When you finally watch this guy's videos through eyes that aren't burning because of salty teenage fanboy tears, this guy is actually genuinely funny at times. I've found myself laughing at some of his comments and how full of himself he is.
I was considered basically a genius. I was in all the gifted classes. I was in like the higher advanced placement, things like that, you know. I probably spent about a month in this room just jumping around trying to figure out what to do. You know, the last thing that ever crossed my reality-based mind was, you know, jump into a picture. I finally ended up finding this, probably by mistake after about, I don't know, months and months of research.
I'd honestly say check out his channel for some classic shitpost reviews. I don't really feel I'm doing any wrong by exposing an obvious troll to a large audience. He's ultimately harmless, and the channel is all but dead now. He made a review on Pac-Man 2, and since then he hasn't uploaded anything in almost 9 years. So obviously, he's never coming back. He's not technically a Nintendo fan, well maybe he is, he's just not showing it, but he sure as hell pissed a lot of them off, me included. He popped up for a couple of years, pissed a bunch of fanboys off, and then left without a trace. The mysterious man remains mysterious, and I hope wherever you are, mysterious man, you're living your best life. And can I please have that copy of Earthbound you allegedly own? I would really love that copy of Earthbound.
Anyway, I would give it like, I don't know, I'd give the game like a 3 out of 10. Thanks for watching.
So we talked about a Nintendo zealot, a Nintendo elitist, and a guy who trolled Nintendo fans. But how about we ended off with a Nintendo fan who attempted to reach for the stars? Compared to all of Nintendo's franchises, The Legend of Zelda has probably the most dedicated group of fans. No, scratch that. Zelda fans are the most dedicated compared to any franchise ever. It doesn't come without reason. Zelda games are some of the most highly acclaimed and beloved video games ever made. You ask a majority of industry veterans what influenced their work, and they'll most likely say Zelda. It represents the generational fandom I was talking about. You'll find Zelda fans of all ages due to the game's influence and how long the series has been going. But also, if you ever criticize a Zelda game in any way, you can bet your ass you'll get hounded for it. If you don't think the newest Zelda game is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, you just signed your own death warrant. The best example I can give would be 8.8. I won't say anything past that. If you know, you know. But it's not all negative, because even though there are some insane Zelda fans, there are also some who have shown their love for the franchise and have created some amazing pieces of art and entertainment to show their love for the series. Despite being one of the most popular gaming franchises of all time for over 40 years, we haven't really had any adaptations of the games outside the 80s Deke cartoon, which is, it's something.
Zelda!
Link!
Oh boy, smooching time!
Only now are we getting the first ever film adaptation, and whether it's good or not, one can't say at this time. But that's not to say people haven't tried over the years. I can look up and find quite a handful of independent Zelda fan films made on an extremely small budget. They're not the best films ever, but you know the people in them had a fun time making them because they loved the games. And really, isn't that what matters in these? But the one I'm talking about never got made. Well, actually, it sort of got made. Let me explain. In the year 2003, the year of the GameCube and the year Wind Waker came out in the US, a man would suddenly appear in the IGN message boards by the name of Joe Cracker. claiming to be at just the young age of 19, writing a Zelda movie script to pitch to Nintendo and Deke Entertainment. It was specifically based off of the 1980s cartoon version of Zelda, and had elements of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask thrown in. Now obviously, a man comes on the forums and claims he's going to make a Zelda animated film and pitch it to Nintendo. This is going to be a big joke, right? Well, it turns out, no. Joe Cracker was being 100% serious. He really was planning on pitching this script to Deke Entertainment and Nintendo, and was going to give updates on progress in this thread, and even created his own GeoCities website for the movie. But obviously, being some rando online and claiming you're going to pitch your movie idea to major corporations, some people in the thread had doubts and tried to talk Joe out of it, but he wasn't having any of it. He was sure this was going to be his big break. As the thread went on, multiple people would come in and get into several arguments with Joe. Someone even offered to help Joe with the script, but the biggest issue was that Joe was too secretive about everything, and when you don't have anything to show, people are going to doubt you. Also in this thread, he tried to find a multitude of ways to fund this bitch, and that includes digging through a movie theater's dumpster and finding film reels containing movie trailers mind you, not the films, and trying to sell them off on eBay. Which the thread told him back then, movie theaters would throw away movie trailers because they were worthless. This would then turn to him trying to sell his own mixtapes on eBay, which somehow some people bought, and he ended up with a budget of like $300. This thread would continue on for several years. Joe would not stop talking about his movie pitch idea. He even created his own boards, which if you tried to go to no, oh that's hentai, sweet Jesus I cannot show that, and because of this, Joe had become quite notorious across several Zelda message boards due to his obsession with trying to get this film made, but was still super secretive on a lot of things and wouldn't show it to anyone but the higher-ups. In late 2004, a strange GeoCities website popped up, and it turns out they were making their own Zelda film and calling it The Beacon of Courage, and everything in it is disturbingly similar to Joe's. And this website claimed it already met with the higher-ups of Deke, and they agreed to make it, which did not make Joe happy. He would email the guy and get into fights with him over this. He even tried to start a movement on the boards called Cut the Cheese to get this plagiarist to stop. Rolling into 2005, a new major breakthrough for Joe happened. Someone claiming to be the director of the original 80s Zelda cartoon, John Grust, had gotten into contact with Joe and claimed he would love to work with him, which Joe immediately accepted. John and Joe had a few back and forths, with John claiming to have showed it to the higher-ups, but they ended up rejecting it. Shocker, I know. And this is where the original thread suddenly ends. About 800 posts in, or at least that's where the archives of it end. But this is not the end of our story, as more threads were made so we could get more updates, and it's believed that John Grust asked for Joe to send his script so he could finally get to work on the project, and Joe obliged. At this point, this has been going on for so long that it was finally time to shut Joe up, and give him exactly what he wanted. John Grust would eventually get back to Joe, and with him, he had an animation test to show him what the film would look like, and this was the result.
Link, what is that Stelfo wearing?
Don't worry, Princess. It's just a mask.
I am more than just a mask, boy. Much, much more.
Stand aside, Princess. This masked Stelfos is going back to Ganon.
Your powers are no match for me, boy.
Looks like we're in trouble, Princess.
All we can do is run.
Now this looks this looks like a huge joke. This doesn't look like it was done by a big corporation at all. Joe thought it was though. In fact, the people in the thread loved it too. They demanded more. And so a second animation was created, which was a little longer but even more absurd.
Wow! These games get better and better every year.
My son just keeps getting stronger and more braver every day.
A map? Well, that will be no problem at all.
If it wasn't plainly obvious by now, no, this was not the real John Grust. It was a troll. It was multiple trolls. And they collaborated together and used their knowledge of 3D animation to create these with the one purpose of fucking with Joe Cracker. Not only did they create this, watermark it and send it to Joe in hopes he would believe it was real, they would later leak his entire script online. Reading through the script, it's It's bad, but it's about what you would expect from a 19-year-old fanfiction writer fresh out of high school. If you want to read it for yourself, I'll have a link in the description. These animations used lines straight from the script so you can hear the hotness Joe had in store for us in motion. But Joe was still too deaf to see what this all really was. He still thought it was real, and it was actually pissing some of the people in the thread off he wasn't seeing what was actually going on. Well, a couple of months later, Joe would get the news broken to him that it all was just a big joke, and let's just say he was living. But not only that, multiple regulars in his threads revealed that they were the ones behind the entire scheme. They had a third animation in development to show the world, this time without Joe's acknowledgement or consent. It's like a twist in a Shyamalan movie. This also upset Joe, who threatened legal action with his lawyer who goes by the name Greasy Beaver. Oh god, no! Anybody but Greasy Beaver! But later he would actually go and support the guys, but was still furious at them for not including him in the project. Really, what could he do now? The Light of Courage has evolved past its creator at this point. Finally, in early 2006, the final part of The Light of Courage was released to the world. The longest and most detailed one yet.
You two are so stupid. I know what you want, Link. You want this.
Dense potion! Hand it over, Ganon.
Never. I will not be defeated so easily. Oh no!
Goodbye, Ganon.
And so, that's the final one. The joke had run its course. There were promises made of a Light of Courage 4, or it's still in active development apparently. The channel promises it'll be finished by at least July 26th, 2035, so we got another decade to wait. Insert Yandere Sim joke here. They created some behind-the-scene videos and a whole website to archive the info, and then the animators just moved on with their lives. Their one claim to fame was this, really only meant for a small pool of people to really enjoy. There was no monetary reasons for these to be made. They were made just to fuck with one guy in particular, and that was it. Now, some of you may have already seen these animations before, and for those of you who are just now seeing them for the first time, you actually have seen them before. You just don't know it yet. Tell me, does this character look familiar to you?
A true hero seeks neither fame nor fortune, only the courage which he needs in which to fight.
That dancing triangle you've seen posted by your unfunny friends on social media was actually a dancing piece of the Triforce this entire time. But what happened to Joe Cracker, the guy who started all this in the first place? Well, he didn't just crawl away and be forgotten in the 2000s. Believe it or not, Joe Cracker is still online. He has a YouTube channel up where he just talks about random shit. Latest upload was as recent as just 4 months ago. Joe did try his hand at amateur filmmaking, which I don't think has gone anywhere. He's made peace with the whole debacle, and is actually proud of what his script ended up creating. Hell, he takes credit for the Dancing Triforce meme existing, which I can't say he isn't wrong for doing so, because it's technically true.
Hi, I'm Robert McGee, and I wrote The Legend of Zelda, The Light of Courage, the fan fiction that became the series of videos on YouTube, and where the Dancing Triangle meme originated. This thing has clearly taken a life of its own, and there's basically no stopping it.
In 2014, he attempted to run for Congress and sent out flyers making reference to the Light of Courage to get people to vote for him. Hell, just last year, he decided to write an official sequel to the Light of Courage in fanfiction form, which you can also read for yourself. And so, that's the legend of Joe Cracker. It happened well over 20 years ago, but its legacy still lives on. Give a salute to all those IGN board users for coming together for this, and most of all, give one to Joe for giving them the inspiration to do all this. And I look forward to seeing The Light of Courage 4 in a decade, in which I'll be in the exact same position I am now. Time moves too fast. Well, there you have it. 4, well technically 3 cases of Nintendo fanaticism. And let me clarify something. There's a difference between being a fan of something and many of these cases. let most of these be a lesson in how to appreciate a video game company's work. As for Nintendo, well, they'll still probably be making video games even long after we're all gone, and still be making generations of new fans, and probably more cases like the ones you just witnessed. Nintendo may be a corporation, they may love your money and not you, they may be extremely cutthroat in their business policies, they may nickel and dime you for the most ridiculous of reasons, but they can still pump out a good game when they lock in, and then charge you $69.99 for 2 Wii games. I think I'm just going to stick to my backlog. God bless, like and subscribe, and good night. Twilight Princess is the best Zelda game. No, I will not be elaborating.
Hey guys, today we're talking about various nuts. You got your basic cashew. Everybody loves cashews. So it's really good. It doesn't have a bitter taste like a lot of them do, but it's not exactly the choice of the professional because I mean everybody loves cashews. And then you got these little bastards. Well, they're not really little. They're huge. Freaking Brazil nuts. Kind of got a bitter taste to them, but they're still really good.